So good evening, everyone. Welcome to our Sutra lecture. We'll begin with the Dharma Request. So invite everyone to please place your palms together as we invoke the presence of the three jewels. 欢迎大家，我们现在来请法，请三宝来护持道场，加持。Okay.
"恭请大德森听，为此法会，及一切众生，请转妙法轮，教导我们如何了生脱死离苦得的殊真无生。Will the Sangha with great virtue, out of compassion, for the sake of this assembly and all living beings, return the wonderful Dharma will to teach us how to live suffering and attain bliss and birth and death, and quickly realize numbers.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one.
Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one.
Namo sadanto sucedoye alahadi samya sambuddhoje.
Namo sadanto sucedoye arahati samya sambuddhoje.
Together. 无上甚深微妙法，百千万劫难遭遇。我今见闻得受持，愿解如来真实义。Supreme and wondrous Dharma, subtle and profound, rarely is encountered, even in billions of eons. But now we see and hear it, and accept it reverently. May we truly understand the Buddha's actual meaning. All Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, Venerable Master, Dharma Masters, and all good and wise friends present and online, Amitabha. We're happy to be back this week to continue to explore Amitabha Buddha's Pure Land. Many people are Pure Land practitioners, but they might not know that in the Infinite Life Sutra, it goes into great detail about what the Pure Land is like and how Amitabha Buddha created it. So today we get to continue our investigation. 诸佛菩萨上神，各位法师，各位善知识，阿弥陀佛。今天晚上我们还有个继续有机会来研究极乐世界是怎么一回事。我们常常去参观、去旅游的时候，去一个地方，都要是先了解一下怎么样的情况。所以今天我们是先了解一下极乐世界是怎么样的地方，我们往生时候就可以去。所以这个是非常难得的机会。Saying that oftentimes before you go on a trip, you want to figure out what's the place like that I'm going to go visit. And so tonight we get a chance to understand what Pure Land is like so that when the time comes, perhaps at the end of our lives, we can go to the Pure Land with full understanding of where we are going. So let's recite the Buddha's name to bring Amitabha Buddha into our hearts, into our kind of breath, into our spirit. And 我们现在来念佛，带佛到心中，到我们的口中，到我们的精神中。好。南无阿弥陀佛，南无阿弥陀佛，南无阿弥陀佛，南无阿弥陀佛，南无阿弥陀佛，南无阿弥陀佛，南无阿弥陀佛，南无阿弥陀佛，南无阿弥陀佛，南无阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛 可以了。
好，诸佛菩萨先供上人，以及在座的法师，还有我们在座的佛友，还有我们线上的佛友，大家晚安。
So all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, Venerable Master, Dharma Masters, and all good and wise friends present and online. Amitabha, good evening.
好，我们今天是7月28号，礼拜四在 BBM 这里，我们大家一起来研究《佛说无量寿经》。
Today is July 28th, 2022, and we are here at Berkeley Buddhist Monastery to continue to investigate the Infinite Life Sutra.
我们今天的这个经文在108页的这个中间，一直到这个到这个完，我们108页。
We're on page 108, from the middle to the end.
我们一样的，我们先来读一遍中文，然后再一遍英文。
So we read the Chinese and then we read the English. 好，
好，我们大家一起念啦。
Let's read it together.
好。
其诸菩萨千染心月，于虚空中共奏天乐，以为妙音，各叹佛德，听受经法，欢喜无量，供养佛仪，为世之前，忽然轻举，唤起本国，与阿难无量寿佛，为诸声闻菩萨大众，颁宣法事，都悉聚会七宝讲堂，广宣道教，演藏妙法，莫不欢喜，清洁得道。
好，这个是中文。
Okay. English.
在109页。
我这边有，好。
好。
Full of joy, these bodhisattvas play celestial music in the sky as an offering. With exquisite voices, they sing praises of the Buddha's virtue. As they listen and receive the teachings in the sutras, their happiness is boundless. After their offering, they swiftly and effortlessly return to their original land, even before their meal has started. The Buddha continues, when the Buddha Infinite Life teaches the great assembly of voice hearers and bodhisattvas, they gather at the lecture hall made of the 7 treasures. There he expounds on the path and the wondrous Dharma, inspiring everyone to be delighted and have realizations of the path.
好，这个我们来稍微解释一下这个经文，就是说其诸菩萨显然心业就是那里的菩萨们呢，都和谐，然后非常 欢耀的，喜悦的，然后呢，在虚空中呢，共同奏起这个天乐，这个音乐，并且呢，用微妙的音律来歌颂这个佛的这个妙德。
So these bodhisattvas are in harmony. They sing extremely joyfully, playing celestial music in the sky as an offering, and their voices are exquisite, very, very beautiful. And they sing the praises of the Buddha's virtue.
然后呢，这个之后呢，他们都来听法，听受经法，然后呢，又有无量的欢喜来供养诸佛完毕呢。他们在还没有吃饭之前呢，就又飘飘的回到他们的本国去了。
So after they sing the praises, they go and listen to the Dharma. They listen to the sutras, and they're extremely happy. After that, they go back to the original land, and they are able to arrive there very swiftly, very quickly, before their meal has even started.
所以呢，这时候佛又继续跟阿难讲，这个无量寿佛呢，他给一切的这个声闻那里的声闻菩萨们呢，来先收这个佛的这个大法正法。
So then the Buddha, this is Shakyamuni Buddha, he continues and he says, when the Buddha, infinite life, teaches the great assembly of voice hearers and bodhisattvas, they gather at the lecture hall made of the 7 treasures. And there he expounds the wonderful Dharma, Da Fa, you could say the most wonderful, greatest teachings, and inspiring everyone on the path.
所以呢，他们都会集在这个七宝讲堂，就是阿弥陀佛极乐世界的七宝讲堂。然后呢，他们就在那里来宣扬这个正道。当然，这个正道就是微妙的之法，这个都是算最后要能够成佛的一个大道。
So they all gather at this hall, the 7 treasures, and the Buddha teaches the wondrous Dharma, where you could say teaches the path to the kind of ultimate awakening. And so they all gather and take delight in learning and have, you could say, profound realizations.
所以呢，他们在听法，当然都是莫不欢喜啊，都是非常的高兴，而且呢，心解得道，而且他们都能得到心开意解，就是说他们都能够得到正道。当然，这个正道刚才讲的，就是要能够成佛的大道。
So they're extremely delighted, and they have realizations of the path, and this path is the path of Buddhahood.
那这个我们释迦牟尼佛在世的时候呢，他也就是说释迦牟尼佛在娑婆世界这里来成佛。当然，他们也同样的跟无量寿佛在极乐世界一样的，他释迦牟尼佛也是他要来教导这个正法，所以呢，在这个法纪经里面呢，第25篇，那佛陀呢，他有教导比丘来观想，到最后比丘们都能够得到阿罗汉果的故事。
So Shakyamuni Buddha, you could say in our world, is doing the same thing as Amitabha Buddha in the Pure Land. Shakyamuni Buddha teaches the, you could say, proper Dharma, or the right Dharma, or the appropriate Dharma that leads to awakening. And so I want to share a story from the Dhammapada, verse number 25, And in it, the Buddha teaches the bhikshus, the monks, and after he teaches them how to contemplate, how to practice, they have a realization of arhatship.
这个第25篇这个讲呢，他就是说叫比丘们呢，因为比丘在佛陀那里去得到这个禅修的题目，他们都开始去做禅修啦。然后呢，在森林里面呢，他们就去那里看到这个茉莉花，茉莉花我们这边伯克利这里外面也有茉莉花，茉莉花是很香的，这个他们看到白天盛开，晚上的时候就掉落了，这个茉莉花瓣呢，全部就掉在地上啦。
So 茉莉花 is jasmine?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, jasmine.
Wow, my Chinese is good guess. Let's say it that way. So, so the Buddha is teaching the bhikshus in this section of the Dhammapada verses, and he tells the bhikshus who are going into the forest to cultivate the Chan practice or dhyana meditation. And in the forest, these monks see a jasmine flower. And they see this jasmine flower is open in the daytime, and at night it wilts and falls off the tree.
所以呢，他们看到这样子呢，他们就感到哇，要赶快来，生命很短，然后决定来进行修行，所以呢，他们就认真的修行，希望把这个能够得到解脱，没有烦恼，就像茉莉花一样的这样子掉落在地面，这样子的，就是说不再有烦恼啦。
Yeah. Okay, 你可能要高一点点。好，
小声吗？
我也可以把你的弄大声一点。等一下，我的盒子在这边，我拿一下。等一下下。诶，你都没开。
哦，是吗？
哎呦。
没有开。
OK。
可以了吗 ？Yeah, OK 。没有开。
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. I hope you were able to follow.
Yeah.
Basically, got two languages.
忘记开了 ，OK。Yeah. 好。
Okay, well, translate. 要不要我们简单的讲中文？所以有些比丘在森林里面，他们在禅修，看到茉莉花，茉莉花开的时候，
开了，晚上就掉
了。他们就想，我们生命不很短，要精进修行。我们的要无烦恼，就像这个茉莉花谢掉的一样。So these monks contemplating this flower that opens in the daytime and wilts at night, they think, wow, life is short. We really have to cultivate vigorously. And they also reflect, we need to become free. We need to become liberated of our afflictions. Just like this jasmine flower, you can see that it wilts at night. And so we want to have all our afflictions wilt like that, kind of fade away.
所以呢，佛陀虽然不在他们的身边，但是他们佛陀心里都非常清楚，他们的这个修行的一个决心呢，所以佛陀就放光说的放光告诉他们，就说比丘啊，就是像这个枯萎的这个茉莉花落地一样啊，你们也应该要精进来修行，来解脱世间的苦一样的。
So the Buddha, although he wasn't with those monks at the time, he, with his spiritual abilities, had complete clarity about what was happening. He also could see into their hearts, into their minds. And he knew about their resolve to cultivate. So the Buddha shone out his radiance, his light, and all the way to the bhikshus. And he spoke to the bhikshus saying, you have to cultivate vigorously looking at this moli, this jasmine flower, you want to be able to, you could say, get free of all your afflictions, really cultivate for liberation.
所以呢，这一群比丘呢，他受到这个佛陀的这个跟他们的一个开示呢，后来他们都证到了阿罗汉果。
So these monks, hearing the Buddha's exhortation, they all cultivated vigorously and realized arhatship.
另外就是说释迦牟尼佛在世的时候呢，他有弥勒菩萨，有一段弥勒菩萨来教导一个居士，这个居士就是一个穿珠子的一个人呢。这个故事在这个杂宝经里面呢，第4篇里面的杂宝藏经。
那是什么东西啊？bead? Oh, okay, bead,
Yeah.
bead maker maybe you could say.
穿珠
strings beads.
他教导一个穿珠式的这个
Okay.
故事。
So this story is about, also from Shakyamuni Buddha, but he's actually talking about how Maitreya Bodhisattva taught a lay person, I think it's probably a layman, who was actually strung beads together. Maybe like we have beads, and he put all these beads onto the string. That was his job.
所以呢，这个一个故事开始是一个我们知道大爱道就是佛陀的这个算他的姨母或者是
姨母继母，
就是教导他
Stepmother
大爱道呢，他因为成佛以后呢，大爱道来做一个金缕衣就是衣服，就是全部都是金色的这个缕的来做成的衣服，要送给佛陀。佛陀告诉他，你拿去送这个僧人比较好，因为这个僧人呢，他是大众来算有比给我自己来用还更多的这个福德，所以就教导他去送给他的这个大众去。
So the Buddha's stepmother.
姨母他的姨母对。
Stepmother. Here's this Da Ai Dao, which means great, maybe care path. I think it's her name is Mahaprajna Prapati or something like that. So this is the Buddha's stepmother, and I want Prajapati, Mahapajapati, and she had kind of a cloth that was golden, a kind of very beautiful cloth, and she wanted to offer it to the Buddha. The Buddha told her it would be much better for you to offer this to the Sangha, to the whole community. Making an offering to the whole community, the Sangha, is far more meritorious than making an offering to me.
所以呢，会得到更多的这个大功德更多了，然后呢，所以呢，他就听从这个佛的意思，就把这个衣服拿去僧团里面去，然后呢，这个他拿去的放在僧团，没有人敢拿。
So she heard this, and so she followed the Buddha's instructions and took this cloth and offered it to the whole Sangha community. After she offered it, none of the Sangha members, or none of the monastics, dared to take the cloth.
那这个当时这个只有弥勒菩萨呢， 他拿了这个衣服，然后就穿了这个衣服，然后到城里面去托钵去乞食。
So only Maitreya Bodhisattva dared to take the cloth. So he took the cloth, which is the robes, and then he wore it as he went to the city for alms round.
所以呢，这个他拿去穿的这个弥勒菩萨穿的这个衣服，然后弥勒又有32相呢，然后而且是紫磨金色的，所以呢，大家他来乞食的时候呢，大家都来争看，就是大家去来看，哇，这个人那么的那个算那么特殊，这样子。
So as he was walking through the town, Maitreya Bodhisattva actually had the 32 marks or the hallmarks of a kind of a great being. So he was walking there, and also he was wearing this beautiful robe, and his skin was also a purple gold.
Yeah,
and so it was just, he was very radiant. And as he walked through the city, people came out just to kind of gaze at him, kind of in awe of his kind of appearance.
所以呢，但是大家只有看啊，大家也没有给他食物啊，大家都真的看。但是呢，其中只有一位这个穿珠师，就是说，穿这个珠子的这个算师傅啊，看到没有人给他食物呢，他就跪下来，就请他到家中去。
So these people all just looked at him. None of them offered him any food. Only this bead stringer, right, the man who strung beads, only he saw that Maitreya Bodhisattva didn't receive any food. And so he kneeled in front of Maitreya Bodhisattva and requested, could I make an offering of a meal at my home?
所以呢，那就弥勒菩萨就去他家里去那里用餐啦。然后呢，用餐完以后呢，这个穿珠师呢，就来请求来要听法。
So Maitreya Bodhisattva went to his home for the noon meal, and after finishing the noon meal, this bead stringer, he requested the Dharma.
所以呢，这个弥勒菩萨他是非常有辩才的，有识辩才力，所以就跟这个穿珠师呢说种种的妙法。那这个穿珠师呢，他也非常的喜欢听，就一直在那里听。
So after the request, Maitreya Bodhisattva shared the Dharma. And Maitreya Bodhisattva extremely eloquent. And so he spoke all sorts of wonderful Dharma for this bead stringer. And the bead stringer was just so happy and just listened to all of this Dharma.
所以呢，这个穿珠师其实他这个是每穿一串好呢，就可以得到10万，当时的10万钱呐，他可以得到这样子多的，而且呢，他是算穿珠师的这个太太呢，他在家里，因为他这个是一个长者家里，所以他每串一只就10万串，得到这样子。但是呢，他都在听法，就没有在串这个珠子。
So， 说这个是他的工作，他有赚10万钱吗？还是他
对10万钱，他每个串好的一个
有价钱的，
就是会给他10万块了，10万钱。
他自己赚的钱啊？
对，他自己赚。就是说那个长者他的太太啊，他太太的 父亲会给他10万块啦。
太太的父亲啊。
嗯
Wow. Okay. So this was a very lucrative business. The bead stringer, he received 100,000. Jingfo said money, but it says maybe dollars for every string of beads that he did. I don't know how much was $1 at that time, but probably wasn't too little money if it's $100,000. And this was his wife's father, so his father-in-law would give him this money. And his father-in-law was an elder, kind of a wealthy elder.
Yeah, 因为他都在听法，他都没有在串啊。
Oh, so he was listening to the Dharma. So as he was listening to the Dharma, he kind of, you could say, forgot all about stringing the beads.
所以呢，他这样子，他的那个家人来催他，催了3次，他都没有串这个珠子。然后呢，他的这个算他的太太就跟他说，你都是只有在听法，没有穿这个珠子来赚钱，然后就有骂他说你这样子是算没有无业，没有什么工作这样做这样子。
So the family came to remind him 3 times to go back to stringing beads. But he was so enraptured by the Dharma that he didn't go and do his work. He just kept listening to the Dharma. So after being reminded 3 times, his wife came and spoke with him, says, you only listen to the Dharma. You're not making any money. So really scolded him and says, you're really kind of worthless. You know, you don't know you don't do your work.
所以呢，他这个传知师他听到他太太这样子讲，他心里也是有一点点悔恨啦。那这个时候弥勒菩萨知道说他的这个听法是有一点悔恨的心呢，就跟他说：“你跟我来，我们去一个庙寺里面去。”
So this bead stringer, he heard what his wife told him and actually got a little bit upset. He has a little bit of resentment in his heart. And so Maitreya Bodhisattva saw this kind of resentment in this bead stringer. And so he said, come with me, I'll bring you to the temple.
他说可以啊，我可以跟你去庙寺。然后呢，他就跟着弥勒菩萨去这个真房中，就是去庙里面，然后就去问了第一个上座，就是说坐在很高的位置的人，就问他说有人呢得到这个10万这个装满的这个10万的这个钱呢，是不是如何欢喜听法，然后会就是说你欢喜听法的听人家说法会怎么样子？就是说你有这个有这个钱10万斤的钱来听法会有怎么样子？第一个他就问到陈娇如。
陈娇如
就是我的第一个焦纯子了。
焦纯如Ajna Kandinya. Yeah.
焦纯子。
So the bead stringer said, yes, I can go with you. So he followed Maitreya Bodhisattva back to the monastery. And there, Maitreya Bodhisattva asked one of the elder monks, you could say the Sangzuo, the kind of senior seated monks, and asked them, so if one values listening to the Dharma over making $100,000, what is the result of that? And he said, this is the first person he asked was Ajna Kandinya. He is the first bhikshu in the Sangha. Right? The Buddha went to Deer Park and taught 5 monks. And so he was one of the 5. And he's the one who actually woke up after hearing the Four Noble Truths.
所以呢，他这个教程主讲啊，假使有人得到这个10万斤的话呢，不如有一个有人呢，他给一波饭的时间来持戒，而且能够相信来听法，这样子就是说这个人能够在一波饭的时间来持戒，而且来听法，他胜过100千万倍，比这个10万斤100千万倍多了。
So the response from Venerable Ajahn Kandinya said, well, if you really want to make a comparison, the $100,000 that one would make is not cannot become really doesn't come up to somebody who really sincerely wants to listen to who holds the precepts for the span of one meal and would like to listen to the Dharma, believe and listen to the Dharma. If you were to try to compare it, is 100,000, 10,000 times more meritorious to listen to the Dharma than making $100,000.
然后呢，他又带他去问第二个上座，上座也是答说，假如有人得到10万车金10万个车子的金子呢，不如一个人呢，在一钵饭的时间来持戒，然后呢来听法，然后经过一个时节呢。然后就是说比这个10万车金呢会得到的这个还更多。
10万次金和10万金不同。
10万车子都是金子。
Oh, he says so. Next, that's a second senior seated monk, and this senior seated monk said, well, if you want to compare it, 100,000 cars filled with gold. You could say maybe trailers filled with gold. When compared to somebody who holds the precepts for one meal and has joy and listens to the Dharma, is many times more meritorious.
然后呢，又去问第三座，带他去问第三上座，第三个。
Asked the third senior seated monk.
那第三个上座也是答说。若有人呢得到10万10万这个房子的这个金子呢，也不会比这个持戒的人在一钵饭的时间来听法，不会比这个人得到这个10万房子金的听法来得好，来得多。
So the third senior seated monk said, well, when you really look at it, somebody who has 100,000 homes filled with gold, when compared to the goodness, the benefits from holding the precepts and just listening to the Dharma for the span of a meal, cannot be even really compared. There's so much more merit in listening to the Dharma.
之后呢，他又带到第四个上座来问上座，上座也跟他答说，若有人得到10万国家的金子呢，10万国的这个金子呢，也不如来那个人来持戒一钵饭的时间，并且来听法来得好，来得多这样子。
So they asked another person, and this person says, 100,000 countries filled with gold is not up to listening to the Dharma. So you can see kind of the theme here, right? Starting out with $100,000 to 100,000 maybe cars filled with gold, another 100,000 homes filled with gold.
Yeah, 所以呢，就是 然后最后就问到阿那律，阿那律他算持戒最好的一个人。他问到阿那律，阿那律呢，他就说，得到了四天下的金子啊，这个是四天下就是所有天下的这个金子呢，都不如那个人呢，在持一戒，在一钵饭的时间呢，来听法来得多这样子。
Is this Aniruddha?
阿那律。
So they went to ask Aniruddha, who upholds the precepts very strictly, and he says, well, if you have 这多少金子？
啊？
他说多少金子？
四天下。
So
四天下。
all the gold in the world.
四天下。
You've all the gold in the world under heaven, but it's basically all the gold. And if you had all the gold, it cannot compare to somebody who wishes to learn the Dharma and upholds the precepts.
所以呢，他这个阿那律这个遵守这个后面他有继续说他阿那律他得到这个金子之多呢，这个故事我上年其实也有讲过，那个就是说有一个他偷兔子啊，这个我想因为时间关系，我们不讲这个故事啦。
So Aniruddha has another story where he makes an offering to Parcheka Buddha, and later a golden rabbit jumps on him, and he actually has a lot of gold. But given the time, I won't go into great detail about that.
Yeah.
So just to elaborate on these stories, and also maybe about this particular text. So first, I just want to point out that for many of us, perhaps tonight, we actually did what this text is saying, right? We actually sing praises of the Buddha's virtue. Amitabha's body is the color of gold. Amito. I don't know if our voice is exquisite, but we try our best, right? So what matters is in the heart. And then after that, what do? We're listening to a sutra lecture. You get a chance to investigate the Infinite Life Sutra. And I think a question here is, are we feeling infinite happiness? Are we feeling boundless happiness to be able to learn the Dharma? And I think that's a very important reflection for us as we're practicing, is to say, can we learn how to have fun in the Dharma, to make it something that's we take delight in, we find joy in. It's not something that is kind of oppressive and a duty that we have to do. And I think that's in this story that Jing Fosher just told about this man who actually strings beads, that he found that kind of joy in listening to the Dharma, that he forgot about making money. There's people who definitely forget everything else and make a lot of money. You can say, forget the Dharma and make money. That often happens, right? We're so busy in the world trying to make money that the Dharma falls to the wayside. What if our value system shifted from saying, you know, what I really value in life is the Dharma, and money is something that supports my life but doesn't run my life. And honestly, this is a struggle. I know a layman recently just talked with me and shared, you know, the struggle of wishing to learn the Dharma, but perhaps those in his family think that, you know, you should be making money. And it's not easy. It's not easy. This tension that in this story kind of exemplified is one that I think many people who sincerely want to cultivate experience, wanting to walk this spiritual path, but realizing the environment that they're in doesn't value spirituality and cultivation in the same way. And so it's interesting that what Maitreya Bodhisattva does, actually, and then it's also interesting that oftentimes what happens is we have resentment. We get a little angry and irritated at those people who don't share that same value in practice as we do. And so it's interesting, Maitreya Bodhisattva, I first thought the story would go that Maitreya Bodhisattva would teach him and tell him, you have to let go of your resentment. But instead, Maitreya Bodhisattva actually took him to the monastery to seek out other good and wise advisors, people that have a lot of experience. And each of them, in increasingly large analogies, basically said, actually, listening to the Dharma and upholding the precepts is many times, if not incomparable, to simply making money. And it's worth, I think, unpacking. Why is that the case? Why is listening to the Dharma so much more valuable than making money? And I think the reason that there is a kind of difference is because we're actually having a paradigm shift. We're shifting from a transactional mindset, you can say maybe to a transformational mindset, borrowing some of the language from service space. Or rather than playing a finite game, we're playing an infinite game. So in the world, we're usually in a transactional mindset, and especially in capitalism, where everything is bought and sold, including ourselves. So we start thinking of ourselves as money. How much money can I make? Or we think of ourselves as productivity. How productive can I be? And we start comparing to other people. How productive are they? How much are they contributing? And there's always this kind of inner calculation going on. So we're in a transactional mindset. And I think if I put in, X, Y, and Z of work or money or resources, then I want X, Y, and Z back, because this is, how the world works. I'm here for a good deal, right? So that's one mindset, the world of money. But what if we had a completely different mindset? And I think this is why listening to the Dharma is so much more precious, especially if you have deep joy in it, is because now, rather than seeing ourselves as kind of economic units that have to make certain money to feel like we're successful, we actually value our spiritual nature, which is infinite. You can't put you can't put a price on the Buddha nature, right? You can't put a price on finding inner peace. It's very hard to buy inner peace. That's something we actually have to cultivate in our hearts moment to moment. Of course, having some finances is important, right? We need enough money to live and to be responsible. But if our mind primarily values money over everything else, then I think in this story saying we're missing out on a lot of life. Life is a lot more than just making money. And so I think this is a simple story, but it's a story that many of us wrestle with, because in this current society of ours, money has potentially, I think probably, it's now kind of gone global. Maybe there's small pockets here and there where money isn't kind of the main marker of success and value. In the past, before money was so prevalent, people maybe valued more, your relationships in the community, and money was kind of secondary. But now, because money is so powerful, we might not even have to have really good relationships with other people around us. We can actually buy people to do what we want. And so it becomes a kind of interesting situation now in this world where money has become so important, so defining. So maybe that's just a kind of a reflection, just to say, why is listening to the Dharma so much more valuable than making money? Is because we move from a game of transaction and seeing ourselves as an object to a game of transformation, where we see ourselves as a Buddha in training. And we want to learn the Dharma to really find our true potential. And I also wanted to point out in the other story about the the wilting jasmine flowers. About one is the brief period of time we have. Oh, I should translate to Chinese. 所以我刚刚就简单的翻译，我是说这个故事跟这个经文，我觉得很有意思，因为我们这个经文呢，看这个菩萨他们用音乐来赞叹佛，然后来听法、听经文。我想我们都是这样子的。很多人可能今天晚上刚刚做完晚课，在晚课里面我就做什么呢？就是赞叹佛啊。但是我们可能没有这个微妙的这个音声，在中文怎么说的？我们的声音我不知道是不是很微妙的，但是至少我们是诚心的，诚心的来赞叹佛。他们这边说我们的，他说声音是怎么样？声音是，我没有找到，找到吗？他的音乐，他的声音是什么样的声音？他的音乐是歌叹佛的，
歌的佛的这个圣德妙德。
所以我们就是现在就在这里，我们就在诵完这个经文呢，赞叹佛完的时候呢，我们就来听经。但是我觉得很有意思，这边是说这些菩萨呢非常快乐，他们是无限的快乐。所以我想这个跟这个居士是把这个 beads 这个穿珠的这个居士呢，有一点相类。因为说我觉得这个快乐在学佛法是非常重要的，因为我们没有真正的非常快乐的来学佛法，我们就可能久而久之就很放弃了，因为我们觉得好像不是很有快乐的这个一个心中的这个感觉，法喜这个没有这个法喜的这个感觉。所以我想这个故事呢是一个故事，我最近也听到有一个居士就是跟我讲，他是有心修行，但是他的家庭就觉得，你应该去赚钱，家人就说，你应该去赚钱，对的。我想有时很多人会这样子的一个压力，或者我开始也是这样子，我是想要我想去修行，但是也有家人说，你应该去赚钱。我们现在社会是很多是重视很多赚钱，不是说赚钱不好，是赚钱不是我们生命就是为了赚钱，我们是赚钱为了生命，为了可以保持生命，负责我们需要负责的东西。所以你们听这个故事呢，看到我觉得很有意思，他听到他的这个太太跟他说你要去赚钱，他心里有一点嗔恨心，所以弥勒菩萨没有马上就是纠正他，反而带他去庙里面，好好来看一看，给他跟这些上座来讨论。这上座就跟他讲了这个听法快乐跟持戒比这个赚钱多了太多了，就是可能说都想象不到的好处太多了。我刚刚就说为什么会这样子的一个情况呢？因为如果你从我觉得从另外一个角度来看，是一个 paradigm shift， 是一个完全不同的一个什么范围，价值观的转换。我们的我在社会上是赚钱为主，现在我们就变成是修行为主。然后如果我们从这样子的一个这样的价值的这个改变呢，可以觉得我们如果是为钱为主呢，我们是怎么样回事？可能就看自己说要赚多少钱，我们的时间就是变成1个钟头可以赚多少钱，我们2个钟头就赚多少钱，或者我们可以有多么多的成功，对不对？我们就把自己的生命变成像一个东西一样了。我们的价值是什么呢？就是我们可以赚多少钱。有人跟我讲过，你在社会的价值就是你赚多少钱，但出家我们不赚钱了，没有价值了。所以这个是一个方面，但是你
no， 这个事情也在佛陀的时候， 他也有讲过开示过，他因为他说我们去讲法来这度众生，跟他们去做工作的事情比起来，这个是天大之别。
对，
你度众生，这个是不同的，跟你自己去做赚钱吃饭，这个是差太多了。
所以从一个方面来看，如果是从钱的方面来看，这个价值观，我有点可以说，可以说夸张一点，但是我是想就是这个道理清楚，就是说如果我们完全是赚钱为主，这样子，我们看事情，像比方说出家人啊或者人啊，就变成从一个用钱的这个观点来看，反而我们如果是从这个修行的这个角度来看呢，不同。为什么？我们就看我们是有这个佛性，我们可以成佛，别的人也是成佛，所以我们赚钱呢是为了度众生、度自己来成佛。所以你看，我们如果把我们的这个价值观就是转变呢，我们在一个完全不同的一个环境来修行。如果用钱的概念来修行呢，是有好处，但是范围不是很大。如果我们发大心呢，说我们修行真正是快乐的，因为我是非常对佛法就很重视这个修行跟听法，这个就完全就让这个改变，会这样子当提这样子的一个看法。So maybe I'll just say that much. I think just to kind of give a little bit of a connection to how this story really actually applies a lot to our lives in current times, where money is probably the most dominant paradigm, and to say actually we want to make the Dharma our kind of guiding light. So 像就这样子简单说，就是说我们现在社会钱好像变成可能很多时候变成最重要了，反而我们想要把佛法变成我们最重要的一件事情。
好，我们下面我们知道极乐世界他们在七宝讲堂里面来听法。那佛陀时代的时候，也有一个长者来做一个讲堂，他来特别做讲堂给佛来讲法。这个在杂宝藏经里面呢，有这样子的一个事迹啊，就这样子的事情。
So in the Pure Land, there's this lecture hall, which is called the Seven Treasures Hall. And also during the Buddha's time, Shakyamuni Buddha's time, there was a noble and wealthy elder who built a lecture hall for the Buddha. And so this story comes from it's kind of maybe the miscellaneous treasury sutra.
好，他说呢，那时候王守成就是佛的那个地方住的地方，我们知道有频婆波罗王，他也那时候他是频婆波罗当王，然后他给佛，就是给释迦牟尼佛，造了很多僧房，就是给就是出家众僧房来住。那有一个长者呢，他也想做很多的房子，造很多的房子给佛来佛还有僧团来住，但是呢，他没有得到这个很多的地方，很多的地他没有得到。
So 那个长者没有很多地，意思是这样子。
因为他要造很多的房子给僧团住但是地不是很多，所以呢，他就在这个 后面我还会再继续讲。
所以是说他没有很多地，还是地是没有很多地？
他没有很多的地
Okay,
可以来。
okay. So this story is in Shravasti, Rajgir. It's not Shravasti, it's Rajgir. Wang Sheshan. Okay, Rajgir, King Rajgir, in I think in Shravasti, he gave the Buddha many places to live and reside. At the same time, there was another elder who wanted to also make offerings to the Buddha and create Sangha residences for the monastics to live. But he did not have a lot of land, so he kind of didn't have something he could offer.
Yeah, 所以他就在这个因为没有很多的地呢，他就在如来就是说佛他经行的地方啦，就是佛在那里修行的地方，他就造了一个讲堂，造一个讲堂，然后开4个门啊，来给大家可以进出，可以来听法这样子。
So because he didn't have a lot of land, what he decided to do was he created a lecture hall where the Buddha would often do walking meditation and practice. And this lecture hall had 4 doors, and where people could come in and out through these 4 doors.
Yeah, 所以呢，他这个那个长者呢，他后来他就往生了，然后就升到天上去了。
So at one point, this elder passed away, and he was reborn in the heavens.
他升到天上以后呢，他又就是在带着这个天宫殿呢，天的宫殿来供养佛，就是来供养再来回来供养佛，因为在受法，所以呢，佛就为他受法。
So after he was reborn in the heavens, because the gods have their palaces, right? So he came down with his palace to the Buddha and offered his palace to the Buddha. So at that point, the Buddha spoke Dharma for him.
所以呢，听佛说法以后呢，这位长者，后来他就得到须陀洹。
Shotapana, 第一，
他也回来听法嘛，他就得到须陀洹。
须陀洹 is that Shotapana or is that Anagamin? Anahan is Anagamin. Shotapana. Okay, so he offered the Buddha this palace, and then the Buddha taught him the Dharma. And after hearing the Dharma, he became a Shotapana.
然后呢，所以比丘们就问佛啊，这个天子啊，就是说他这个从天上来的这个天宫的这个天子呢，他是什么因缘呢？他升到天宫去，佛就跟他讲了，他本来呀，因为他在做了这个佛的讲堂给大家来听法，因为以这个善因呢，所以他命中的时候就升到天上。
So the bhikshus asked the Buddha, how does this deva, this god, come to be born in the heavens? So the Buddha said, well, this is because he used to be an elder who made an offering of the lecture hall of 7 treasures. And because of this wholesome cause, he now has this wholesome result of being reborn in the heavens.
所以呢，他后来因为他感恩啦，因为感恩佛陀这个回来因为他就是感恩佛陀这样子，他重新回来，然后再来听法，所以他就获得了这个须陀洹。
And because after he went to the heavens, he still had a lot of gratitude towards the Buddha. And so he came and offered his palace to the Buddha and was able to realize first stage arhatship, Shotapana.
好，我们在经文里面也有提到说，这个花盖啊，就是说这个花盖这个来佛陀的地方。
你要不要先做你的音乐？
音乐等一下，还有
时间够吗？时间快到了。有没有？
够了，没有把这个讲完了，因为这个花盖的这个我们的经文里面也有提到这个。
So
拿花盖来。
Also, can you talk about the offering of cannabis?
这个在这个也是在杂宝藏经里面呢，他说有一个天女啊，他受持了八关斋戒，然后升天了。所以我们八关斋戒以前我们都有常常在做，这个是非常重要的一个斋戒，八关斋戒。
So here's also another story that comes from the Miscellaneous Treasury Sutra, and it's about a goddess, and she became a goddess because she upheld the precepts, 8 precepts, and so we were born in the heavens. So you can see actually how important it is to uphold the 8 precepts. The 8 precepts is extremely meritorious.
那因为他受八关斋戒，他后来他就升到天上，他升到天上呢，他的这个得到这个报应，然后非常这个天女升到天上呢，也是非常光色自己的面光各方面都非常的好看，所以呢，也在善法堂里面来听法，然后尸体梵音呢，尸体梵音就是那个来尸体梵音是chakra，
chakra， OK，
就来跟他做来赞叹他就对了。
赞叹这个女的。
Yeah.
Okay, so because she upheld the 8 precepts, she had a very radiant appearance. You say very beautiful, kind of this kind of very wonderful complexion and appearance. And so she would come to listen to the Dharma in the Buddha's lecture hall, and there the chakra would actually praise her.
第一个他先问他啦，你以前是做了什么业呢？你身呢那么像光亮啊，像金山一样啊，那么好看。你的面色像莲花，那么像而且你的身子出了大妙光，你是做什么能够获得这样子？可不可以为我们说？这个是他在先问一下这个天女。
Okay, so Lord Chakra asked this I would say Devi, this goddess. He says, "What did you do in the past that now you are so beautiful and your body is like a kind of a golden radiant mountain, so radiant. Then Guang Shen, I think that's your radiant complexion, your radiant kind of appearance is so adorned, you could say, so kind of dignified. Your form is so pure, like a lotus flower. And de si sen wei de, how do you have those supreme kind of awe-inspiring virtue? And you have this wondrous radiance, this great wondrous radiance. What did you do in the past that let you have this result?
所以呢，这个天女就跟他答说，他在迦摄佛的时候呢，他持了八关斋戒，所以升到天上，所以他获得这样子。
So she replied back, "This is because during the time of Kashyapa Buddha, I upheld the 8 precepts, and that's why I'm reborn in this way."
所以这个夏卡就在赞叹他了。哇，你是做了这些功德， 你得到这个微妙的这个福报，所以呢，今天呢，就是大家都非常欢喜，因为你持了这些境界，这样子。那时候天上呢，就持了好多的这个花盖，就花盖来到这个释迦牟尼佛的地方，那佛就再继续为大家来说法。
So then the Lord of Chakra says, wonderful, kind of sadhu, it's good indeed. I can see how you have such a wondrous field of merit and virtue, and that you are able to have this supreme, wondrous reward. And Shi Sao Shou Wei Ying, because you cultivated this
一点点的这个因素呢
tiny cause, you could say, holding precepts, and are able to receive this reward of being reborn in the heavens. And you have tremendous blessings that gather together. Sei dang bu gong yang. So he's saying that
就是说他也做了这样子来升天呢。那时候，所以这个天他在天上呢，就拿着这个花盖，因为这个我们刚才有讲，他在虚空中变成花盖。
这个女的
拿着这个花盖嘛。
So after this was kind of said, because you sing about upholding the pure precepts, at that time in the heavens, there were many kind of flower canopies, and they came to where the Buddha was, where he was speaking Dharma.
所以呢，这个我意思说，这个因为我们这个无量阿弥陀佛那里也有这个花盖啦，花盖在天空中花盖，所以这个释迦牟尼佛的时候也有这样子的一个事情发生，所以这个是一个来用这样子的来事情，我是用这样子来把它讲出来，这个。
So you can see here that even during Shakyamuni Buddha's time, with those who came to see him, that you could, canopies of flowers, offerings would come, and similar to how here in the Pure Land, you have Amitabha Buddha, and Amitabha Buddha's, you can say in the previous paragraph, which we didn't read tonight, but was last week, we talked about offerings that form into floral canopies in the sky that are shining and dazzling. And so you can just imagine this kind of canopy of all the various wonderful things that people make offerings of. I think it's kind of like a contemplation, something that in the Pure Land is probably something we see, but in this world we can actually imagine. In many of our ceremonies, we imagine kind of this very wonderful kind of vision of how things could be. And by imagining that with our hearts, with real joy and openness and creativity, I could say, you could say bit by bit, our hearts and minds get transformed to be similar to the Pure Land. I mean, just very simply, just look at the flower right here in front of us. You know, it always amazes me, because if you ask me to do a flower arrangement, it will definitely not come out like this. But people actually have to have, you know, many levels of aesthetic sensitivities to create like a flower arrangement like this. You have different colors, right? You have green, you have red, you have yellow, you have white, and then you have different heights, so there's depth, right? It looks good from all directions rather than just one direction, right? You have to put it in this foam thing just right so that it stays standing, and then you have to put it in water so it doesn't die immediately. Many things come together to make this kind of offering that's very beautiful. And what is this for? This is actually an offering to the triple jewel, to the Buddha. In fact, oftentimes, honestly, the lay people, knowing that there's a sutra lecture on the Infinite Life Sutra, especially make a little flower to make an offering to make sure we can use it for the sutra lecture. It's very important. People would like specially drive here just to make sure there's a flower. And to me, it's just amazing to see that level of sincerity in wanting to adorn the Dharma. 所以说这个花盖对我们来说可以说不是这么远，就像我们这样子旁边有这个花，可以说非常的庄严，非常的就像一个有一点像个花盖一样，可以说没有可能像真正极乐世界的这样的花盖，但是你看这么可以说漂亮，有红色啊，有黄色啊，有绿色啊，有白色啊，都好好的这样子的叫什么表装吗？是放进去，很仔细的，就是有高有低啊，有深度啊，
这个
flower arrangement， 对，
这个就是插花艺术。
插花艺术，所以你看我们这边很多有插花艺术在这边，所以很多发心非常的诚心来插花，然后供养三宝。然后我们在讲这个经的时候，就是来学习这个无量寿经的时候，人也非常诚心的，就说他们要供花，要是特别我们就可以在讲经的时候，可以有一个花来庄严这个经文。所以这个我觉得是我们出现在我们眼前这个花盖的这样子一个，这个也像一个花盖一样 ，a little bit。If you were down here like a little ant or something, it would feel like a canopy of flowers. 如果你在这边像个小蚂蚁，你看这样就是个花盖一样。
Yeah， 可以这样子讲，Yeah，好，我们下面时间不是太多，我们想来介绍我们的八音啊，我们讲过。八音，佛有八音嘛？我们佛讲法有八音。那这个我们的这个世间上也有八音。那今天我们要讲八音的这个序，这个序啊，序就是这个是八音，八音的一个序，这个是算音乐可以吹奏的。对不起来，这个，Yeah， 这个八音啊。
Let's imagine. Yeah. So, in the sutra, there were 8 sounds, tones that the Buddha has, and also in kind of the Dharma in the world, you could say in Chinese culture especially, there's also some as they refer to the 8 sounds, and these 8 sounds actually refer to 8 instruments, and so one of them is this. What's called a shu.
Yeah.
You look at this.
Yeah.
I think made of clay. It looks like. And oh, look at that. Although that's actually a pretend shu, because it's actually just a pot. It's just a flower. What do you call it? Pot. I think for little. He uses his black marker and marked it. So it's a pretend instrument. This one actually has holes in it, but it's actually hard to not actually play.
So. 这个算念序啊，序呢算中国最古老吹这个乐器之一啊，大概有7000年的这个历史。
So this instrument is perhaps one of the oldest instruments in China, has 7,000 years of history.
它这个序的起源呢，它本来是一个石榴星啊，这个是算一个来打鸟的这个工具，然后呢，它这个可以绑着这个 绳子啦去打鸟，那时候刚开始的时候。
So what's the origin of this instrument? Well, it actually started as a way of hitting birds. Right? So you tie rope in this, I guess, or some kind of string or what have you, and then I guess you would use it to try to hit a bird.
然后呢，它算打出去的时候会有声音响起来，所以这个出声音以后呢，然后他们就拿来这个可以出声音，他们就拿来吹，变成用吹的这样子。
So when they threw it, it make a noise, probably like a wiffle ball. If you play baseball, wiffle ball, and so there's a noise. And it makes a noise. So they took it and made an instrument out of it.
所以呢，这个可以吹，这个是可以吹的这个乐器呢，然后在四五千年前呢，这个变成本来是一个孔，然后变两个孔，三个孔，然后一直到现在的5、6个孔，这样子变成都可以吹的这个序。
Oh, you got it. Oh,
yeah.
Look at that. So in the past, it was just one hole, but then over the years, maybe 4,000 or 5,000 years ago, and they have more holes here, 4 or 5. Now there's 6 holes, and they have 2 holes on the back. So you have 8 holes plus the one on top. So maybe every 1,000 years, I don't think that happened that way, but you could think about it, every 1,000 years they add another hole, and that's human development of musical instruments. I won't try to blow on it.
Yeah, 所以这个春秋战国的时候呢，这个都非常盛行。那我们在 Internet 上面也找到这个有这样子吹的音乐，我想跟大家来分享这个。
Okay, so it was very popular in the warring states. And we found a video online of someone playing this instrument, and so we wanted to share it with everyone. So, are you almost ready? Okay, 1, 2, 3, play. Okay.
好，也这个就是序，我们的这个古老的吹奏乐器之一啊。这个我不晓得这个从哪里来的，这个话来 BBM 这里才看到这个，我们本来也不知道这个是什么。
Yeah, Jing Huo Shi was just saying, he he's not really sure where this shoe came from. It just was a BBM, and we looked at it and didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't think I ever even noticed it before.
Yeah.
But Jingforge didn't know what it was, I guess, looking at it. And then one day he figured out it was an instrument. So, yeah.
Yeah.
We have a lot of interesting stuff here at BBM, for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. 我想我们时间也差不多，我们今天的讲法就到这里。Yeah.
Okay, so we maybe finished the Sutra lecture here, and now we'll do our dedication of merit.
Okay, 我们来做功德。
功德回向.
Yeah.
So invite everyone to make a wish wherever you want to dedicate the merit of cultivating together, listen to the Dharma together, so that this, you can say, well-being, this goodness doesn't just stop with us, but actually spreads out throughout the world. 所以我们现在就可以说发心，要怎么来回向我们这个功德。然后我们再念回向记。好。
好。Yeah.
May every living being, our minds as one and radiant with light, share the fruits of peace, with hearts of goodness, luminous and bright. If people hear and see how hands and hearts can find in giving unity, may our minds awake to great compassion, wisdom, and to joy. May kindness find reward. May all who sorrow leave their grief and pain. May this boundless light dispel the darkness of our endless night. Because our hearts are one, this world of pain turns into paradise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. Bow in respect to the Venerable Master. Okay, so that concludes our evening lecture. Hope you can join us for next week as we continue to learn about the Pure Land. 好，我们今天晚上的讲经到此为止。我们希望大家可以继续下个礼拜也来学习极乐世界是什么一回事。好，阿弥陀佛。
阿弥陀佛。
Wish you a week of peace and happiness. 祝大家吉祥快乐。阿弥陀佛。
阿弥陀佛。
Okay, 阿弥陀佛。